Hi, so my name is Sarah, and my story is called How to Drown a Bat. So I'm going to be talking about my trip this past spring break to Missouri, and while I was there, I worked with the Missouri Bat Census. And it's pretty much this woman who runs a nonprofit. She goes caving all day, and she counts the number of bats who have this thing called white nose syndrome, which is this awful disease that's been wiping out bats all over the eastern coast of the U.S., super deadly, thousands of bats have died, it's been awful, right? So during my week there, the last day, we went to this cave, and we went there with the Missouri Department of Transportation and the Missouri Department of Conservation. And they were there doing surveys, primarily because this was the first cave in Missouri to test positive for Pseudogymnasticus destructans, which is this big fancy word for the fungus that causes white nose syndrome. So the Department of Transportation people went on ahead, they were counting the bats, but I was with the Department of Conservation, and they were doing surveys, and they were swabbing both the substrate, which is the cave wall, as well as bats for white nose syndrome to see what the severity was and where it was in the cave. So let me tell you a couple differences between Texas caves and Missouri caves. If you've ever had the chance to go into a Texas cave that's not natural bridge caverns, they're very, very small. They're also often filled with a lot of daddy long legs, and it's awesome because when you go down, you can't help but touch them. And you look at them and they start doing that really gross bouncing thing, and they smell bad, and they're in sheets that are too daddy long legs thick, and then they start falling on you and you start screaming like a little girl because you know they can't bite you, but they're still incredibly gross. However, Missouri caves are these big, huge caves. They've got 10, 20-foot ceilings, they're beautiful, and they're very wet. Now, around this time, they'd gotten a lot of rain, so there was a ton of water in this cave. Came up to about here in the shallowest areas, would have been over my head in the deepest areas. So we were going in the cave, and there were two girls with the Department of Conservation. One had a clipboard, and the other girl was doing the swabbing. So we're going through, and the girl with the clipboard's like, "Hey Sarah, do you want to, take some notes?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do. I would love to take some notes. This is what I want to do when I grow up. I love bats." And so she's taking notes really fast, trying to keep up with the girl who's doing the swabbing, and she doesn't want to take a break because she doesn't want to miss any of the information. So while she's going along, we're closer to the back of the cave now, and the girl with the swab says, "Hey Sarah, do you want to swab a bat?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to swab a bat. I love touching bats. I have my rabies vaccine, I'm all set." And she said, "Okay," and so she hands me a swab. Well, bats don't like to be in the back of the cave. They want to be in the middle or the front of the cave because that's where it's a little bit cooler. And so we're trying to look for a bat that's not way up in the ceiling so I can get to it, but there's no bats left. So we finally find one, and it's in the corner, way up high, okay? And because there was all this water in the cave, there was this huge pool right in front of us. There was about a 3-foot ledge, and then there was another pool behind it, and the bat was up there in the corner. But I am a macho woman, I am a strong, independent woman, so I'm going to swab that bat because I need to prove myself to these bat scientists. So there's a little tiny ledge here, and I've got on rubber boots, I'm soaking wet. I don't have on rubber waders that come up to here, I'm just wearing jeans, and I am completely soaking wet. So I creep along the edge, balancing. I'm not supposed to drop this swab because it'll mess up the science or something. And I'm balancing, and I have to crawl over this ledge because there's 7 feet of water to my left, and I really don't want to get soaking wet. I'm trying to keep my butt dry. And so I crawl up onto it, so I'm spread out like this, and the bat's up there, and I don't know what to do. She didn't give me any instructions. And so I ask, what do I do? I need some instructions. And she says, "Swab it 5 times. Okay, five times up and down? Do I swab the face? Do I swab the fur?" And she's like, "Just swab it." Okay, so I start swabbing it. What does the bat do? It drops. It drops off the ceiling, and we were swabbing little brown bats. They're not the smartest creatures. When they freak out and they drop, instead of flying away, they spread out their wings like this, and they drop on their belly, and they open their mouth and start squeaking. Little man up here fell into some water. He spread his wings, opened his mouth, and started drowning. I'm still spread out like this. He's 3 feet below me. I can't reach him. I'm freaking out. There's already thousands of bats dying from white nose syndrome, and I can't reach him. I'm thinking I'm killing another bat. Well, another researcher reaches down, grabs the bat, and hands him to me. I'm freaking out. He's not moving. I'm still spread out, trying not to fall. So I'm like, "Oh God." I set him on the ledge, and he's not moving. And so I'm freaking out. And so I grab him again, and I blow on him. And he starts squeaking at me, and I'm like, "Oh God, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to kill you. I'm sorry, but you're alive." So I set him back down, and I get back, and I creep back along the ledge, didn't fall in, kept my butt dry, and I managed to not kill any more bats for the rest of the trip.